Hello everyone. Today's talk is titled How to Work with Your Glow. And what that really means is that your glow is that unique thing, that unique pattern in which you see is emanating from you and is being expressed through you all the time. This sense of unique individuality is your ability as a co-creator on this plane to work with the self. As you become aware of the self, you begin to see that it does not have to really be there. That existence, as much as it can be meaningful and magical and dreamy-like, and we get all happiness and success, it can also mean nothing. Because that is how the nature of our world perhaps is designed. Therefore, regardless of ideology, regardless of wherever we feel we are, we must be present of the life that is here. Because this life that is here is so beyond the regular objectifications of the normal day that it's as if it is not a new pathway. It is just an opening to your sense of unknown. And as you open up to it, there's a greatness in how the nature of things was always the nature of things. Before you have the capacity to even conceive a world where there's good and bad, if you see who you are, if you ask who are you, you will see that it is asking a question before language was constructed in the human, for the human mind. So before language, we were very different beings. Literally, our experience was different. And then language changed our consciousness. And so that's where spelling became significant. Reference became needed to coordinate. And that's a big ambition for man trying to linearize the whole world, for a man to try to linearize the whole cosmos. If you do it too much, you might be missing from some aspects of life. Because it's not about you trying to contain the world in your own unique container when you're a temporal being. It's about how much your experience is flowing off authentically and navigating with its fullest experiential allowance, which is its bliss. Sometimes bliss is how creatively your mind is perceiving the moment and is the moment. Spirituality is an area where it is asking that your experience shifts, and many people are not willing or strong enough to change their experience because the experience they're having now is satisfying because it's real. Sometimes we might think the reality of one thing is accurate, but suddenly we recognize later on that it's not. So what happens when you have that moment where you saw something was real, but now it doesn't look real anymore? Well, regardless, you gotta work with some reality, so look at your present moment and see what's real. And then your handling will become one that is taking in the information of the moment. It doesn't matter if you put me or anyone else on a mountain suddenly, on Mount Everest or wherever. Suddenly, let's say you have Photoshop power, So you would kind of see that your ability to live a certain way is simply suggesting your ability to live, which can mean any way. You need to wake yourself up by understanding how you're sleeping. And so clarity must become an existential search, not something that you could just search on Google and think you can get access to all aspects of that information. You will see if man does not enhance his consciousness, if the youth do not understand multidimensionality, they will suddenly think us in the 20th century, 21st century are the, ancient hieroglyphs. Do you know how terrible that is? What if Egypt, no disrespect to Egypt of course, the hieroglyphs were not the most advanced part of the civilization, do you know? They were not the most advanced product because that's only the part that was manifest. Sometimes you go to a store to buy something and you go and see the guy's like, I have something. Yeah, I have your product. You go check to see the product and you see the product is not taken care of at all. So it's like the product is not a complete product. It looks like it might have defects, but it's the last product. So you have to choose between getting the product or waiting or whatnot. And I just simply want to suggest how there are two different choices in wanting the same result. Because you are choosing how much you want to adjust your existential sensitivity. If you're someone who's listening to my talk, you have adjusted your existential sensitivity to be like, okay, I want to give this guy permission to speak in my world, in this moment, which is my world, and I'm going to hear what he has to say, for example, you know? And you don't have to just hear this guy, you have to go listen to nature, the nature and life and just the forests are sanctuaries for the mind to explore subtler planes. That's how I balance it out, because I realize my environment is part of my thinking. So I need to go into a gentler environment to shift my perception. Sometimes the person who was always thinking about, oh, how to fix the problem, had to get out of the vicinity of the problem to see it anew. And so this is why the ego may be blessed in how it can, in one moment, be the vision from a branch, and another to be the clouds that walk on the feet of immortal ideas. You know, it's very important. Are under the feet of immortal ideas. You know, and these immortal ideas are simply how you are understanding your experience is eternal in nature, not the form, not the fluctuation. Everything's changing in this plane of existence, but the way you acknowledge it suggests your stability in working with different frameworks of mind. So on some level, we are a new species, a new bubble of self-awareness suddenly thrown in an island where it has not explored and it doesn't know what to do that much. But at the same time, we have an ability to know. And when a being or a species has ability, that means that is profound. So what that is what Mr.Within is communicating is that we're not here to bring world peace. We are here to simply create a more clear world for the next generation to make more clear. And that is just healthy for the planet. Because in clarity, many dangerous acts stop. In clarity means suddenly someone comes and tells you, guys, drop the act, let's go, this isn't the wrong place, we're at the wrong place. And you go find the proper diner you want to eat at, you know? The proper, let's say, movie theater or something. You know, it's up to you to choose where your reality is heading and to realize that you have the conscious ability to do so, but you must experience your sense of choice and free will transcendentally. Because you are experiencing free will as an object right now. You shouldn't experience free will as an individual looking at its collective and having free will. You should observe it as the collective in being the inspiration of the individual, and so the individual always being able to do everything because it is everything. It is within everything. So sometimes I've noticed, gosh, man should man up and see that life intelligence may be simpler than he's making it to be. Consciousness and its exploration is much simpler than man is making it to be. And gosh, we need to relax. As a species, as the human species, we need to all relax. And realize that humankind needs to look with kind eyes. That means that when you wake up in the morning, you're leaving behind, let's say, something. And you're also leaving behind ideas you think throughout the day. So think good ideas. Just generate your most authentic energy by being honest and clear. And you will see your life will change. Because you will be aware of the change that you are. And this is where the understanding of man will move and show that his ability to be aware of his own communication, his ability to observe the self of selves in this world of emptiness will mean that he will begin to know himself through all others. Right now, humankind, man is understanding himself through but through the human forms. So right now, we're still a species trying to figure out we're one species. Right now we're trying to bring peace just to humanity. Gosh, the species needs to be at peace first. So right now, the whole universe is waiting. It's like, gosh, when is the species coming to peace? The whole cosmos is waiting. So we would see that the species would come to peace in its knowing that it is not individually present, but it is collectively present. When the individuals in a society, in a culture, begin to understand that they combined together in union and cooperation are a greater being of intelligence, then you will see compassion bloom instantaneously. It is the layout of thought that is suggesting man being too much of an animal that is ruining this world. You are not too much of an animal. Our consciousness has shifted. We have been so aware of being an animal that we're like, gosh, we're not an animal anymore. Right? So now we have been so aware of idea that we're realizing, gosh, we're not an idea anymore. And that consciousness that is continuing through is the greatest moment for a pilot, because you're realizing the experiencer is becoming free of his objective reality. So when you get a taste, a drop of the spirituality, as many wise men have said, you will begin seeing that you will shift your intelligence. So what that means is Mr. Within understands the most efficient action is the one that you do for yourself, because that's the one that's going to make more difference. Whatever anyone else does it for you, if you don't have their eyes, you will never truly understand why they're doing it. If you don't have the tolerance to see why something is happening to you in this life process, you will not be able. You're limiting yourself from that range of existential sensitivity. Existential sensitivity does not mean you're seeking more detail than you need. Existential sensitivity means that you are being aware of your life process, of your objectivity, to such a degree where through the silence, stillness, and emptiness, you're working with it, you are aware of it, and also in how every morning, as your day begins, it's like you're aware of the sounds that are entering your ear, you're aware of the feelings, the motions of your body from the beginning, because you're so focused and seeing the intelligence of the moment wants to be now. Your natural state is not one where you're constantly conjuring up or thinking up about space and time segmented. It is very elusive for an experiencer to make his object of experience the only end. It is not. It is a station. Every form that comes in front of you, it could begin from the worst flu and go to the greatest moment of health known to man, to a healthy man. You will see that it does not matter. The fluctuation in form will happen as simple as, for example, the fluctuation of a chef stirring the dinner, stirring food. I believe this is all suggesting my hunger. Now, we must not let ourselves be harassed by the ideas of our environment as well. Sometimes that means you might be a person who suddenly goes to a new country, and as you do, you are in a new world of ideology. And so how you take that in could be something that could bother you, for example. For many religious people, it does. And so the ability to move beyond such an immediate confusion is to clearly see that one must become the integrative factor. If you see no one else is doing it, you must do it. If you see that no one else is it, you are it. And what that means is your clarity, once you become aware that it is your unique gift, all your insight and wisdom is your unique gift to yourself, which then may communicate into another world, you will see that self-communication is the origin of awareness before there is a communication with another. So there is always an infinite and instant sense of self-observance, self-awareness, present always within you, and then there is many illusory manners of this happening. So what that means is it's like we think we're standing still here, but we're instantaneously moving so fast back and forth between dimensions as particles that what is left here is is an intelligence that will always know itself more than its temporal creation. So the writer always knows the inspiration beyond the words. And so you know yourself in that manner. You know yourself more than terminology. You know yourself more than another human being having to tell you to know yourself. You have known yourself, and the reason you have memories and awareness is because that is how life designed you. Respect your design of life, and you must respect the design of life. What that means is you might think that you're ugly, and that's your choice of how you choose to create yourself in your ideas, you know, but you must never say the design of life is ugly. How can you say the design of life is ugly? How can you go say that tree is uglier than another tree? No, that tree is creating another spectrum for that tree, and it's the presence of both unique designs that gives the greater knowing. The wisdom of man must not be enslaved to a box that he created without really clearly looking at his nature of being. Consciousness needs to be enhanced with clarity. So what that means is, I believe, and I'm pretty sure in the academic world, there are areas that are talking about consciousness. If these areas are not experientially made relevant, all that research is useless. Consciousness is a direct experiential thing, and there is no essay that will satisfy the true understanding of a transcendental being. And so this is where respecting the shaman becomes a great deed. And you will know yourself as such. Because regardless of the shaman was a being aware of the deeper ceremonies of the life, similar to how we are becoming aware of the geometry underneath form and its manifestation in this light simulation. We will begin seeing that there is a greater design to the core of the receiver of life. That means your self-awareness is deep beyond measure, and so do not think there are rulers in this world when this whole world could be unwritten. As you walk through the emptiness of thought, that doesn't mean that thoughts suddenly change. It's not that the changes are crazy or some huge change. The shift is subtle and it's deep. So what that means is the shift in awareness that you know you have just gone into a state of being in a new room is that you become sensitive to a reference point, which is your present moment. So what that means is simply be aware of where you exist right now, and as you're aware of where you exist, you will begin observing many other moments of perception which all lead to greater foundations of experience for you. Everything is leading back within itself. All my ideas are empty because they are showing that they are projected. What that means is that when a projector knows itself, it is not the intelligence of a projector anymore. When you know yourself with utmost existential honesty and clarity and awareness and allowance to be, you will see then it is not a matter of being a soul or living a spiritual life based on spiritual symbols or whatnot. It would be an experiential one where you would not have the time or the sense of space to talk. You would be the experience. You would walk in a room, and before you could even go as an idea doubting where it is or the thinker wondering what it has to do in the room, you are an absolute experience. You're in this roller coaster of your own greater sense of how joy can integrate with your newest design. Compassion must not be forgotten that it is compassion means the receivers of life must have gentle hands, and as they receive life in that gentleness, realize the depth of how this reality is never one-dimensional, but it's multidimensional. It is weaved in ways that are transcendental, and we must explore this and understand what this means for us. Each individual has the right to understand its collective existence. So what that means is, when I look at how we can change the world, I was never changing the world. I noticed people have different worlds. So what you can do to help this world is for you only to what you know to be your truth, live the most clearest. In other words, don't live truths in which you're blindly accepting because you don't want to question the origin. Questioning the origin is a natural process. It doesn't matter if you shouldn't do it or not. Eventually, life will shift you, and in that shift, new perceptions will be the answers to those questions. New perception is a huge emphasis here. But new perception does not mean that anything else should change. It does not mean you should be non-religious or be religious. It just means that you must be aware of the experience that you are before your ideology and before anything. You must acknowledge yourself as consciousness and then what you are conscious of. And that is healthier for your psychology. And nothing is a has to, nothing is a have to. When you immediately look at this life, because you realize the experience is in the hand of the being, it is up to you what kind of world you see and what kind of world you experience. So if you suddenly see that you are grumpy, you're expecting too much of this world as an idea, and there's a bit of isolation and lack of self-confrontation there. You're not being honest with yourself if you believe the world should listen to you rather than you listening to the world. I'm pretty sure you as an individual human being should listen to the world. And that means that you must let go of your own ideas once in one moment of your life and go sit in nature alone and observe the life that is meaningful to you. And then your life will fill of meaning. Because before, earlier in my life, I was kind of forced into these experiences, and I think there was a reason to talk about it because in my youth, I had a very healthy childhood, but it's just that on some subtler level, I was aware of how I was being introduced to ideology and how that was manifesting worlds for me. And that awareness did not make me want to engage with reality for a certain period. So I was very shy and quiet and in my own world, lost to my own illusion, right? So as I was there in that state, I recognized later, of course, but simultaneously kind of there, that we first define our intelligence, then shape it, and then don't like what we make with the clay because we realize we're all temporal beings. Don't be too convinced by your own convictions, because sometimes they are not yours. They're something, just like food has been fed to you, language and communication has been fed to you, which has created your conditioning. But it has also given you a unique cultural and social viewpoint which you must share with others and be an integrative factor. If each individual contributes and their life's work becomes an integration and a bridge between different worlds, we will connect our intelligence in so many ways that we will see that we were never alone in this world. That the intelligence had not yet developed to be aware of itself in that state. We think extraterrestrial consciousness is something that is real, but you will see, funny enough, that transcendence also meant your world is evolving too. Your whole reality and plane of existence is evolving too. And so this is why the pilot of consciousness is that being who's aware of all planes of reality, simultaneously present within in an emptiness that is an instant of knowing unspeakable and filled with compassionate knowing. In such a way, we enhance the vision of man. Guide yourself, and we will use the strategy of drops, because drops come together, they lead to a stream, and such a stream dives into the ambitions of greater rivers, and these rivers find the ocean after the longest waterfall. What's happening right now is that you are no longer, Bill Hicks, a comedian, he said life is just a ride, and I want to just add, he was right, but there's more to it than that. Because life is just a ride in the sense that individually you are an experience here. But because the nature of the being is multidimensional, your perception is turning as your world is. There's an immobilization of how we interpret our transitions when man confronts a sense of deep emptiness. As he goes through that cycle, it does not mean that you do not exist, because you are an existential observant. So if you were to ask Mr. Within what the intelligence of this whole cosmos is, or this whole plane is, at least from here, he would tell you to observe it. So one of the first things Mr. Within would teach mankind is to say that observe your physical reality, observe your plane of reality, observe what bodies are. Don't just try to read about, try to like technologies that are advanced like robotics. Go study and learn from your physical body. That is a gift in your awareness. And as all these lead to perhaps your own greater self-discovery, you will see that like all co-creation will turn into your creation in the moment, and you will suddenly see in that transcendental moment, your creation has always been the co-creation of all other moments. You will enhance, because there's a symmetry to how consciousness remembers itself. And in that self-awareness, in that self-reflective nature of thought, man knows himself beyond himself, and he is simply the simple expression of. Consciousness has been activated to an ability which is able to see that man was never an individual or an individual soul or an individual spirit. He was an awareness to an infinity in which he was chosen to be an edge of. And it's a huge blessing to be a species that is born in such a multidimensional gateway, in such a multidimensional landscape, where we are the vision between worlds. We are aware of the veil, and this is why we have so much amazing learning we can have. And I'm bringing this more to light, you know. It's pretty much, we need more cameras and very ancient, you know, ancient cultures that brought meditation forth. We need more understanding of their inspirations and aspirations, because it gives you clarity of mind, and that clarity of mind will help you utilize and become a graceful part of the world. You see, trees are helpful to their environment. So man, in his authentic state, does more than a tree. What that means is that tree comes here and just is standing there its whole life. Mankind is moving around, engaging in different ways, engaging with different intentional sensitivities, different self-awareness. I could totally see how man is evolving from an animal into this greater awareness. But he is also so much more able that he does not have to be limited to his own chains. The chains were never there. He was simply an artist that had drawn in such a way. And freedom is in creation, and how creation is observed by you and within you, and by the innate knowing that all is well, for you are present. And so is all that can be. I have noticed that when a culture has been conditioned to think in complex ways, simple truths will feel mightier than the most complex problems. And so may they be as such, because your awareness is your existential responsibility. And begin with self-awareness and see what world you're living in. Because if it is not a kind world, a compassionate world, an efficient world, then perhaps you're in a playground that you don't need to be in. For you are the design of life, and also the designer. Much blessings and namaste.